So record to the cloud. We are officially recording, and we are officially starting right about on time here. So that's great. But hey, let's start we'll start over a little bit, Master Moody here, and we'll talk about your trip out there. We have a few more moderators maybe joining us. I'll remind everybody, this is 100% absolutely live. The bad thing about live is we don't have any net to catch us, and I tend to be a little outspoken, so if I say anything stupid, we don't even edit it out of the recordings usually. So, but let's introduce our panelists here, and there's Andre, and I think we're going to be joined by Karis, maybe Greg Macy, maybe Jeff Smith. We will see who else joins us here in a second. And guys, we have quite a few people on with us already, and quite a few more logging in. Again, we're using this system. First time we've used this system for a webinar, but we've used this a bunch for our member meetings. So let's start with this. Let's introduce each other. I'm Stephen Oliver, and I imagine a fair number of people who are registered don't know much about me, so I'll give the thumbnail background. And what I would recommend you do is go to martialartswealth.com/free video. There's about a 90-minute seminar video that's very focused. I believe very good. We recorded it from a live seminar. There's also a copy of my first book. It's called Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 22. I would also welcome you to schedule with Bob Dunne here. We'll introduce Bob, but to schedule a time through Bob Dunne to talk to me or with Master Moody. And what we'd love to do is give you some personal one-on-one feedback on your school and your school operation and so forth. But in addition to that, once you schedule an appointment, I'd be happy to send you a copy of my newest book. It's called Mile High Maverick, and it's gotten a lot of pretty good feedback as well. But anyway, so my background is I started martial arts in 1969. I was 0 years old, just for everybody's reference. Actually, I was 9 years old. Been in martial arts. I opened my first school in 1974 by my own standards of what a school is. It's kind of laughable, but it was a rec center program at the time. Fairly small number of people who were only there to be fresh meat, so I had somebody to beat on. Therefore, the retention wasn't very good. My marketing actually back then was pretty good, but the retention wasn't great, I must say. And this is the Taekwondo era. We were using junior pads, but pretty much you started full contact sparring when you were a gold belt or white belt. So anyway, but I worked my way through Georgetown University, working for June Rhee, who at the time certainly had the biggest, most successful commercial school operation, probably in the world, certainly in North America. Ended up opening Mile High Karate. It's now 33-year anniversary just a couple weeks ago in 1983. Got some publicity back then. Anybody who's been around a while saw me all over the place, but I opened 5 schools in 18 months, grew to 1,500 active students, about 1.5 million. In the first 2 years, went from there to 6 locations. And then since then, I've really done, pretty much anything you can do in the martial arts, promote one of the big World Tour NASCA events for 10 years and retired from that. And have been working in both growing the Mile High Karate organization with Jeff Smith and the rest of our team internationally, as well as obviously working on coaching and consulting and working with schools for the last 10 years or so. So anyway, we have Senior Master Moody with us of the ATA. And Master Moody, let's start over. A few people got a little bit of a background, but give them a thumbnail again, since we're at our official start time.
Well, maybe I'll be more concise this time. So I started my first school actually in Virginia as a little club. So I had a little tiny club where we used to move the apartment. It was an apartment complex, and we used to move the furniture out of the way so that we could teach class. Then we moved the furniture back before we finished. But that was back when I was an engineer. I was working on projects for NASA and satellites and rocket projects. And I decided after doing that little club, I wanted to do it for real. And I lived in Phoenix. So when I moved back to Phoenix, I opened my first school in '95. So I've been doing it as a profession. Quit the engineering gig where I was making good money, but I I really wanted to do this. I assumed when I started the school, I'd make less money than I did as an engineer because I really didn't know. My instructor didn't make much money. The other people around me didn't make much money. So I assumed that that's the way it was. And I shortly found out it didn't need to be that way. And grew that school to 8 schools, 1 in California, 7 in Arizona, and about almost 14,000, 13,800 something last count students that we've had over the years. I sold quite a few of them to students and to other people, and as I'm focusing now on working with you and the martial arts school owners to try to build their systems and try to build their business. One of the things that was different for me when I started that, I guess one advantage of being an engineer, mostly it's a disadvantage, but I tried to build all my schools so that everything I did was systematized so that it would work no matter who it was. I didn't have my ego, so I had to be the one teaching and running everything. I wanted other people to be able to be successful. So that was why I think we were able to grow so fast and to so many units. And, even still, even now with the schools I have now, they run, our goal is that they run like a machine. So that I think that makes it a little bit unique and what we're trying and consistent with what we're trying to do so that the things that we teach here are they're replicatable. Anybody can do them and they apply to any situation. It's not dependent on somebody being the world's greatest martial arts instructor or the world's greatest personality or certainly the world's greatest salesperson for anything that we are trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a good point to make, by the way, is myself, Jeff Smith, we've all run a single school, but we come from the multi-school world, and therefore it's all about systems and organizing in such a way that it's duplicatable. And what I see so many times, we have the consultant explosion, but so much of what they're teaching is based upon their personality, not really based upon a system that works consistently. And you see a lot of the one-off, very successful schools around. It's all about that guy or that gal. It's not really about systems that work.
Sure.
And to be conscious of time, let's go around and we have Bob Dunne. He's a senior executive coach, been part of the martial arts world for what now, almost 16 years, Mr. Dunne?
Yeah, been surrounded with a lot of experts in our field in the industry.
Yeah, he works with Master Smith, Master Moody, and myself on a daily basis, hand in glove with developing our coaching and consulting program here. And for everybody, again, we welcome you to set a time to talk to us one-on-one. We're going to direct you to Bob Dunne, and his phone number, if you have a pen, is 720-256-0208. I'll be happy to give that to you again if you need it. But I welcome you to call him and then schedule an appointment with Master Moody or myself. And but let's go around the room here. Mr. Wright, Thomas Wright, introduce yourself to everybody.
Thomas Wright, I'm with the ATA, on Wright's ATA Martial Arts in Memphis, Tennessee. We've been here about 6.5 years, and we're closing out another record month. Thank you, Senior Master Moody.
And what will your gross be this month?
This month, 47.
47. Where were you at 24 months ago?
24 months ago, yeah. Maybe 7.
Okay.
17 probably.
So you've gone from about 7,000 a month to 47 in about 24 months. Is that what I heard?
Yes, sir. Yeah. It may have been a 17,000 a month. This time of year was always fun for us, but this is much better. Okay.
How's your well, we'll go into that and say let's introduce everybody as we go around. Thomas, and how long have you been in martial arts?
Off and on my entire life. Started judo at 10. Tong Soo-do, my late high school, karate before that, and then karate after the Army, and then joined the ATA when I was 45.
Okay.
Since then.
And you've been running the school full time for about 7 years?
Almost 7 years, yes, sir.
Fantastic. And Andre, introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andre Johnson from Quest Martial Arts in sunny, well, not so sunny today, but Coral Springs, Florida. Been open for 11 years total. Moved down to Florida from Rochester, New York, 2005.
And Andre, your audio is pretty muted, so I don't know if there's anything you can do to help that a little bit. We can hear you, but just kind of barely.
Is that better?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So once again, I'm Andre Johnson from Quest Martial Arts, located in Coral Springs, Florida. Open for Lauderdale. Been open for 11 years. Moved down to Florida from Rochester, New York, about 2005. My background is in law enforcement. Been involved in martial arts for over 20 years. And I've been a client of yours for the last 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good there for half a second while you were talking directly into the speaker, and then it kind of went downhill from there. But we'll see if you can do anything about that, Andre. Maybe turn up your volume. Hey, we're joined by Greg Macy. So, Karis, let's introduce you real quick, and we'll introduce Greg Macy, and then get more into the meat of our topic here.
Hi, I'm Karis Brody. I'm the program director at TM Martial Arts, just outside of Chicago. We have been part of your group for pretty much, so I think the whole time that we've been in business, 13 years. And then I've been on staff, this going on my 3rd year. My boss has been wise enough to be part of this group and just be part of the training, business training. But then he's also been wise enough to send me as the program director to the live events and really just polish up all the details of my job. It's been a game changer for us, especially this past year. So
you bet, you bet. And Greg Macy, welcome to the meeting here. Glad you could make it. Greg, tell everybody, we've just been introducing everybody real quick. Tell everybody a little bit of your background. Earth to Greg. Can you hear us, Greg? I guess not. I will tell everybody a little bit of Greg's background since he was birthed with me. Greg Macy started, I believe, your lips are moving. We can't hear you. But let me start with more recent. He opened a new school, I believe it was 30, maybe been 36 months ago now, here in Fort Collins, Colorado. That school has been pretty consistently, if I'm not mistaken, in the $75,000, $80,000 a month range all year. Open location number 2 in Loveland, Colorado. That location has been open a little over 90 days. It's last I knew about 115 students. And Greg, is your mic working? Hey, there you go. There you go. I was starting to introduce you, so tell them a little bit more about your background.
Yes, sir. So I actually started off in one of your schools as a student at the Liquid Mile High Karate in 1984, and trained there and became an assistant instructor and kind of grew up under the ranks and senior system work, and became a head instructor and bounced around your schools as I worked my way through college. And then I left Mile High Karate to get a real job and pursue a career in chemical engineering, and worked with power plants. I went off to start off my own company and built that to a very successful company, and I sold it about 6 years ago. And my end passion as I left and wanted to get back into the martial arts was to start a school. So I started Ripple Effect Martial Arts up in Fort Collins exactly 3 years ago, almost to date. So that school has been in operation for 3 years, and we're just over we're about 325 students at that school. And about 6 months ago, we started our second school in Longmont, Colorado, where we're just over 100 students at that school as well.
Okay. And I'm getting some messages that people can't get in to the meeting. Hopefully they will resolve that. Obviously everybody who's hearing me is on the meeting, and we've got a pretty good group. I'm going to respond to that real quickly. Greg, what's your average gross been the last few months at the first school?
We're right around 90,000.
Okay. So, and with how many active?
We're just over 300. We're about 320 at Fort Collins, and we're just over 100 at the new school in Longmont.
Yeah, now that's a good number for everybody to remember. In round numbers, 300 active students grossing about 90,000 a month. So that means you're at around 200 average revenue per student, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. My math is, now that I have a smartphone, my math has gone to hell. So,
Sorry, so we're actually, with both schools, we're averaging around that 90. So with the Fort Collins school, we're right around 70, which is about 225?
yeah. Okay. So, yeah, about 220. So your average revenue per student is about $220 a month per student. That school's been open 36 months. The new school, what's it, about 3 months?
We're actually closer to about 5 months now.
5 months, okay. How many active is it at?
We're just over 100.
Okay. What was the first month that it ran positive cash flow?
It started doing positive cash flow month 3.
Month 3. Fantastic. Well, what's it likely to do this month?
We should close out about 25.
25. Okay. So it's time to accelerate that. And you've been doing pretty well on renewals. So that's a good sign to keep that accelerated. And well, let's do this. So we've got a few questions already. Everybody feel free to ask questions. There's a little chat box. I don't think that you can get in audio-wise live. But anyway, what was I gonna? Well, I see conversation, but no particular questions. Let's see. I have a phone conversation. Hopefully, improve my school. Is there no? Okay. Well, we already answered that question. Well, let's go through this. Greg, let's start with you. 2 or 3 things that you would recommend that, or I want to go at it from an opposite direction. Give some people introductory results the last 60 days. How many intros have you had between the 2 schools or each school? What kind of volume have you had in July and August?
In August, actually, is one of our record months in Fort Collins. We just had over 170 first intros in the month of. I'm sorry, we had 170 intros in 2 weeks, so we're right around almost 250 intros for the month of August in one school. Of that, we have enrolled 40, which we still have a little backlog that's trickling through over the next week or 2, so we should have a pretty high conversion from that. But we're at 40 enrollments for the month, and we have 4 more that should be coming in today. So about 44 enrollments month of August in Fort Collins. And our events just hit last week for our Longmont school, which we're going to basically replicate for the month of September for that school.
How many was that for Longmont? I was trying to rescue Jeff Smith from his technical issues here, but
Longmont, the month is only going to end up around 14 enrollments for Longmont.
Okay. And Kara, same question for you, for your school there. And Greg's in Fort Collins and Longmont, Colorado. You guys are in Springfield, Illinois. Tell them what your last couple months have looked like introductory flow-wise.
For us?
Yes.
Yeah, we've had a couple of different community events where we had our booth out there. One of them, we scheduled about 100 intros, about 75 of them showed. And what we're working on now is the enrollment. So that's kind of what we've been coached on you lately, and we're improving. So yeah, we've been doing really well at getting people through our doors. And then last week we had a smaller event we participated in an LA night, 2 hours. We booked 25 appointments. Pretty good. We had about 20 of them show at that first intro. 5 families already enrolled this week. So we're getting better at those enrollments.
Good. Andre, same question for you. Let's see how your audio is working here now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, great. Yeah, 2 weeks ago we had 2 meet and greets for the back to school for local elementary schools, and we booked 104 appointments in 36 hours, and we've had 40 of those 104 show up last week. So we're working through the backlog too, like Greg Macy is, to get them enrolled. Now I can't hear you.
A little bit of technical difficulty, I think we have.
All right. I can hear now. Can you hear me? I heard Master Moody, but I can't hear Master Oliver.
Yeah. Well, he's getting connected. I think what everybody's hearing is there's a lot of leads getting generated, but really a key thing is that you guys are turning those into appointments, real appointments that really show up. I mean, one thing that seems to be a problem is people doing events or having marketing activities happen. But right in today's day and age, if you don't turn those immediately into appointments, you're not going to have very good success. Trying to chase people down and chase them on the phone or chase them by text. Just doesn't work. We've got to make sure, and you guys have done a great job of making sure that almost all the leads that you generate, and there's a lot of them, are generating appointments. And then they show up, and then of course we're catching you guys at a busy time where you generated so many leads. Now you're going crazy trying to follow up and make sure they all enroll, which is good. Good problem to have. I mean, that's what you want. You want to have, in your guys' case, 40, 50, 60 people coming in from a few hours worth of work. I think some people are asking questions on the chat line. We'd love to have you ask it on the Q&A. There's a Q&A button so that we can kind of keep them organized, because we have a lot of different questions that you want to ask. So if you want to put those on the Q&A button, then we can keep track of making sure we cover everybody's questions as they go on. But anyway.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, does that sound okay?
Yes, sound good.
That's strange. Buy all this expensive gear and then the plug doesn't work or something. Yeah, and so that's great. So Thomas, we were just getting to you, I believe, when my audio went dead. Tell them a little bit about your flow the last couple months.
Well, we like to hit the smaller events, the runs and all, and and again, like you've already said, the main thing is we turn them into appointments right there, and then we immediately go into setting up, getting them in so we get the face-to-face. We've had a record summer. In fact, we've had a record year. So I just finished uploading 11 leadership applications to the ATA. We had 17 upgrades this month, which broke our forecast, and I just put 8 new students in there and that's for this week.
Yeah, it's not a bad week. And Master Moody was just out at your school. You guys did what, 16,000 cash in one day? Is that right?
We were just under 17,000. Yes, sir.
I hate to underestimate it. Okay, good. So 17,000 in one day. I assume those were renewals or upgrades?
We had a lot of upgrades. Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
And we've got a lot of questions here so far. What I would remind everybody is that in the numbers here in the chat room, if you call 720-256-0208, you can schedule a time with Bob Dunne. And there's a lot more information as well at martialartswealth.com. Bob's gonna, we can't read that, Bob, for crap. It's in the chat box, the Q&A box anyway. But I remind everybody that we're happy to chat one-on-one. And you're welcome to post questions in the Facebook discussion forum as well. If you're not in there, I'll put that link so you can get in there. But what we're going to try to do here is really go through kind of rapid fire in the time that we have available and hit some focused back to school marketing ideas. Obviously, the lead flow that everybody was just talking about was from summer marketing, truth be told. Not so much back to school marketing, but some of it was getting started back to school marketing pretty quickly. Andre, your big home run and Karis one of your big home runs and Karis one of your big home runs was from back to school nights, right? So Andre, let's see if we can hear you first. Tell them about what was for a couple hours you got how much results?
104 appointments, a record for us in 36 hours.
In how many?
104.
104 appointments. Okay, so that's not bad. And that was one event, or was a series of events?
That was 3 2-hour meet and greets.
6 hours total. Can't beat that deal. And Master Moody, I see you're back with us, so that's good. So, and Karis, you had a maybe not that big a number, but you had a pretty good result with a couple of ones you did as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and what's funny is it was a 2-hour event at an elementary school, and while we were packing up our car to go, we're looking around, where's our prize wheel? Somehow we lost our prize wheel at our last big event, and so we're scrambling around. We go into our back room, we find this little cheap one from years ago, and we're like, all right, we're just gonna have to take it. We took it with us, and in that 2 hours still booked the 25 appointments, had 100% show rate that first day. So it's not even about having, you know, the best things, if you can, and totally invest into your booth, but it's about the strategy. And yeah, I was at, you know, just, we were offering the 2 weeks free plus whatever you spin on that prize wheel. We booked that first appointment right there, immediately went back to the studio, made calls saying it was so great to meet you, and looking forward to your first introductory lesson, what to expect. Email, and then the day before giving them another reminder call, the day of an excitement call. So it was a good show rate.
Excellent. And
I think Pastor Oliver, one thing that, you know, again, she set appointments, but also she did a lot of stuff, and we work on trying to help everybody do a lot of things so that they have a lot of them show up, and a lot of they're prepared to enroll, and they get real results from that. So, you know, it's all those pieces. If you miss part of one of those pieces, then you could do a big event, have 100 leads, but you don't get anything. Or you could have 1,000 people at your event, you don't get anything. So it's key to have, as Kara said, the right strategy.
And then we took advantage of talking with the principal, talking with the PTO president, ways that we could partner with them. And, you know, I haven't had much luck with getting into schools yet, but what we've learned from you is always find how we can benefit them, what we can do for them. And so that was the approach I took this time. I just said, Master Harrison is looking for ways to give back to the schools. Can we offer you an anti-bully assembly or a PE teacher for a day? And they were so open to it. So we've already got some things in the works for that. Just looking for opportunities, speaking up, finding ways that we can benefit them.
And I think I've been out to that part of the country here in Joliet, Illinois. I don't think that anybody could say that those schools are easy to deal with. You know, we have a lot of people that say to us, well, yeah, but you just don't know how bad our schools are. And the schools, believe me, in the Phoenix and the area I'm at are, you know, terrible to work with. We've had a lot of issues with people and vendors, but we still get to work with them. And I don't think, you know, Joliet, Illinois isn't known for, yeah, I mean, it's a big city. I mean, you're around a big city, around Chicago. So it's going to be just as difficult to get into your school as anywhere else, yet you were still able to do it if you follow the right strategy.
Yeah, and, you know, maybe try to kind of go back to my outline for the day, although we rarely follow those. But we want to get everybody's contribution and feedback here. We've got a ton of questions. Now, a lot of the questions really aren't on topic. So Eduardo, I think, asked, or Richard asked about employees, and somebody else asked about the upgrade process. And, you know, let's try to give a couple of short answers to those questions. Is, you know, from an employee standpoint, we get that question on two sides, right? Is on the bigger schools, what I have a tendency to find is they're not as profitable as they should be, and big schools have a tendency to confuse headcount with productivity, and therefore they end up with high quality people who don't stay as long as they could because they're not getting incentivized well enough, and low quality people, too many of them on payroll, who aren't doing very much. And so from a standpoint of employees, you know, my rule of thumb has been typically 25% of the gross for branch schools going to payroll. None of that, including me, because I'm not talking about a single school, I'm talking about multis in that case. For a single school, maybe 33 to 35%. But the reality is as you grow into things, typically you grow to 2 full-time employees, head instructor, program director, branch manager. My rule of thumb is I'd go to 3 full-time employees once I broke 300 active, which in today's terms should be in the $60,000, $70,000 a month range. Maybe some part-timers, but really, you know, a lot of this stuff is, you know, part-timers and volunteers. So even when we're talking about this live event marketing stuff, we're not talking about chewing up Like in Andre's case, you're talking about 102 introductory appointments. Worst case, that should, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andre, but worst case, that should end up being 50 to 70 introductory classes taught. Worst case, in the 25 to maybe 35 enrollment range. And that was done with 6 hours of time, probably you and maybe a helper there, right? One helper. So see, it's not a lot of staff hours. Karis, is that about the same for the event you did?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so see, it's not chewing up a bunch of time. From the upgrade standpoint, again, we're really not going to address that very much, but we're talking enrollments on this meeting. We're talking about they enrolled for 1 year. We're not talking about some 6-week, $49 or $69 trial offer. We're talking about a 12-month enrollment. Greg, what are you charging down payment on enrollment now?
$487 down.
Okay, $487 down. What monthly?
In the Fort Collins school, we're $217 a month.
$217 a month. Might as well be, by the way, at $247. Won't make any difference. And Thomas, what are you charging down?
$529.
$529. And
Yes.
what are you charging per month?
Basic, $227.
Okay. And you said basic, so let's go to what are you charging for your upgrade levels?
The upgrade levels are 320
Yeah.
and 420.
420.
320 Master Club, 420 Leadership.
Fantastic. Greg, same question for you.
Oh, we are for basics that 217, and then we have 297 for our black belt club, and our leadership is at 347.
There you go. There you go. And so that in part answers a couple of those questions. From a standpoint of what that means, my standard enrollment presentations, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but basically Ms. Jones, what we're doing is starting on a trial enrollment. It's only about a quarter of the way to black belt to begin with. What we're going to do is evaluate, take a look at Joey, see if we approve him to train to black belt and beyond in the first couple of months. The point of upgrade or renewal really is about them setting a goal to train to black belt and beyond. And then typically we're going to have a couple different levels. I think you both use the same terminology, which is leadership program. My rule of thumb for leadership is about double what the new enrollment was. So if the new enrollment was 247, I'd like to see the leadership be about 497. Both of you guys are a little below that on both of those numbers. And then have a fallback position, typically called black belt club. Actually, we call it master club sometimes. And at that, usually about a 50% bump. So if they were enrolled at 247, add 120. So now that's in the 3 something range, 340 or something like that. So to answer that question, typically the renewal is taking them to black belt. Now, if you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school and you're telling them it's 22 years, I guess I exaggerate, but 9 or 10 years to be a black belt, probably the renewal is to purple belt. But for Taekwondo, Kempo, Karate, one thing or another, typically we're saying that black belt is 3 or 4 years, and therefore the renewal is to black belt. Everybody agree with that basic premise? So
to second degree black belt. I mean, I think we extend that. In a lot of cases, the renewals till further beyond black belt. I think that's something I learned from you that's really critical.
Yeah, we do the leadership actually to second degree black belt, and we're telling them it's 3 to 4 years plus an additional 2 years. And again, that wasn't a recommendation for everybody on the call. Number one, you've got to have all the other pieces in place. Number two, there's a different legal system in Ontario, Canada than there is from New Hampshire, than there is from Colorado, than there is from California, than there is in New Zealand, Australia. And we've worked with schools in the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, and Israel, in Amsterdam, Frankfurt, all over the UK, as well as all over North America, et cetera. So you do have to be aware of the legal environment that you're operating in for some of those things as well.
Master,
go ahead.
I mentioned, these are really good questions, and we want to try to cover them, but we will schedule a time to talk to everybody one-on-one afterwards if you'd like to do that, because some of these things like the upgrade process, you just gave them a quick overview, and you're right, there's a lot of pieces in place. We really want to make sure it works for you and is in the right situation, like the legal situation and what you're trying to accomplish with your school. But we're not trying to, if we do quick answers to some of these questions, we want to try to really make sure we cover back to school marketing today.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to note too that Master Wright, Karis, and even Andre, I mean, I don't think they were charging these prices before they started working with you, or even felt like they would be able to ask those numbers, if correct.
Well, let's not ask Greg, because he
He's
sort
worked
of
with you
came
a
from my loins indirectly. But Thomas, what were you charging a couple years ago?
Let's see, leadership was 150. Black belt club was 120 and 97 for basic.
Okay. Karis, 3 or 4 years ago, do you know what you guys were charging?
When I first came on staff about 3 years ago, he was just switching his prices from $119 a month up to $139, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
For basic, and that was the only membership level we had. And now our basic is $197, and I know there's still room to jack that up. But yeah, it's true. It has not hindered our enrollments at all. If anything, we're enrolling more.
Yeah.
And we also have our Black Belt Club, our Leadership Club in place. Yeah, so we're charging $227 for Black Belt Club, $297 for Leadership, but after the first of the year, that's going to be increasing as well. So right now we're just jumping into our renewal blitz, going to keep those prices as kind of our special deal, and then jack that up.
You bet. And so back to the primary topic of back to school marketing, we started with, everybody gave some examples of marketing the last couple of months. Now, some of that was fall season type of marketing. I really proceed usually that back to school starts after Labor Day, but even my kids went back to school 2 weeks ago. So therefore, really in Colorado, we've been on back to school for the kids market since August 1st. But I want to go through a couple points on the topic, and then feed it to us, because we have a lot of great contribution here. And thank you guys all for being here. One thing that most people don't think about is, if you've been pretty good at marketing and pretty promotional with marketing, you now have a bunch of leads. Greg, if you went back in your system for the last year or so for Fort Collins, how many leads would you say you have that haven't enrolled, if you had to guesstimate, or maybe a pretty close number?
We have over 2,200 leads for the last 3 years.
Well, there you go. So 2,200 leads for the last 3 years. And what we know is seasonally and psychologically, a lot of those people who didn't enroll, even when they came into the school, even when you did an enrollment conference with them, maybe you presented prices and they said they couldn't enroll right now, maybe they said they couldn't afford it, is Ogilvy. And if anybody's seen the show Mad Men, he was the show was at least in part based upon Ogilvy. He's written a couple of great books. He was the first real Madison Avenue marketing genius. His first famous account was Rolls-Royce. His tagline was, if you might remember the shirt ads with the guy in the eye patch, that was Ogilvy as well. But his line is, you're advertising to a constantly changing parade of humanity. What he means by that is not that the faces are changing all the time, but their situation in life is changing all the time. In different months, they go from busy to looking for something to do. Different months, they go from the transmission just went out in the car, or grandma had a heart attack, to now I just got a bonus at work. Their financial status changes. Their what's going on in their life changes. They get married, they get divorced. The kids, breaks her leg or is looking for a physical activity, everything in between, right? And one of the things that I've been teaching forever is, when you have those 2,200 leads or whatever the number is, that right now is the time to go back to and communicate with those leads. And the mythology, our industry ends up with a lot of strange mythology. One was the only right offer was in the MMA market was to do 30 days free, which is a useful offer in some context, not useful in the others. A lot of schools have the mythology now, the only offer is $69 for 6 weeks or something comparable. In the right context, that's useful. In the wrong context, that's not useful. But the other mythology recently, because a lot of people sell software, has been just put them in an email autoresponder and just kind of keep hitting them with email, and that works. Everybody who's on the meeting here would agree or disagree. Email still kind of works, but it's dying a slow and painful death. Everybody agree? See, the reality is.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, Master Oliver, and a lot of people are really, it's one thing with the software systems that are out there for martial arts schools. A lot of people are trying to rely on email and way too much, even way more than they used to.
Yeah. Derek Riddick, by the way, says, did somebody say 587 down? Did I hear that correctly? Yes, Derek, you heard that correctly.
I just answered that one too.
In 1983, in inflation-adjusted terms, I was charging the equivalent of about $800 down, $247 a month. Greg, you were around back then. Would you? You may not remember pricing structure, but you remember the kind of volume we were doing back then. Yeah, give them some feedback on what that period of time looked like.
Well, I mean, I do remember the pricing, because actually we wanted to make sure that that number that you were saying, the inflation part, was right. And so we actually had one of my old enrollment contracts that I think you even signed.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. So we actually had that. And for the basic program, my folks dished out about $2,000 for essentially, it was $2,100 for 18 months, and that was with a paid in full discount.
There you go, and that was probably 25% more or less.
And that was those years' numbers, right? That was that was actual cash at that time.
That was the actual cash.
So inflation adjusted, that would be
$4,000.
$4,000 for a basic program.
I think the number from early mid 80s is 2.3, if I remember correctly. Is the inflation adjuster. I mean, keep in mind back then you could buy a new Ford Mustang for probably $9,000-$10,000, that type of thing. But yeah, so to answer Derek's question, yeah, I mean you heard that right, and I would say most of the schools that I'm working with are in the range of $497 as the initial enrollment. And again, we get a lot of questions that are a little off topic. We're not going to get into much of the difference between basic, Master Club leadership, or Black Belt Club right now, other than pricing. But I will. The one answer I will give you is the difference between basic and everything else is mostly about commitment and goals. So if you don't get commitment and goals and enthusiasm for really sticking with this long term, none of the other stuff matters. And again, another industry mythology, other than that email is the only way to go, is this why bother renewal structure. People do these upgrade things of add $10 a month, add $20 a month, add $30 a month. Somebody else is asking about demographics of the areas, and I got to tell you, we're all over the board. Thomas, you're in Memphis, Tennessee, and Greg, you're in Fort Collins, Colorado. Karis, you're in Springfield, Illinois, and Andre, you're in Coral Springs, right? So. I was having a short brain fart there. So, we're all over the place just on this particular call. And Greg, you're in a good location. Thomas, Memphis is got some mixed bag there. How would you describe your area?
I'm right here in the middle of, I guess what you'd call low income, all the way up to very affluent. Senior Master Moody saw some of it, not much of it the other day. We have everybody coming in here. I mean, everybody.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that because I taught a class to all the students, and you really can't. I mean, if there's a general cross section of Americana, that's probably it right there.
Yeah.
So that's a common thing. And again, this is all this stuff's off topic, and we are happy to talk one-on-one with you about it. And everybody's situation is a little bit different, but really, as far as the pricing, when we give you these prices, these aren't for rich areas, or this doesn't depend on having everybody drive a Ferrari or anything. This is normal people that will pay this. But what Master Oliver said is really important. A lot of people think of this as sales in terms of comparing your price to other people, but it's about having a great program, making sure that you have really solid commitment and they really understand what they're getting into. And then the sales process is easy. it really isn't as challenging as you think, and those are the prices you should be charging.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and everybody gets fixated on price, and it seems like when we talk about these prices, somehow they all think that we're talking about Malibu or Manhattan, and the reality is, I mean, I've had conversation with people in Malibu and in Manhattan. If you don't remember, Malibu is where all the stars live on the beach outside of LA. And I've had people in both of those areas who have tried to justify low price. The funniest one, somebody you guys may well know, a good friend of mine, great guy, Ernie Reyes Sr. But I was talking to him and Tony Thompson. We were doing a staff meeting with them, and they were charging really low prices. And I said to them, I said, why are you charging such low prices? I mean, for God's sake, you're in Silicon Valley. And if you don't know, I mean, their schools are right in the strip where Apple headquarters, HP headquarters, Google, I mean, they're right in Silicon Valley. What he said to me is cost of living here is so high that that's all they can afford. Well, I mean, the reason the cost of living is so high in Silicon Valley is those guys are getting paid a lot. So any place where real estate is expensive, that means they're getting paid well. And the other reality is across, at least in North America, pretty much everybody's paying the same for their cable bill. Pretty much everybody's paying the same for their phone bill. They're paying the same for pretty much everything other than real estate. If you go by, Greg, you have, what's that fast as hell Mustang you have?
Cobra.
Cobra. You have a Mustang Cobra. What did you pay for that?
$60,000.
$60,000. Okay. So the Mustang Cobra for $60,000, whatever it is, costs the same in New York City, in Colorado, and in California. In fact, one time I bought a Mercedes and it was cheaper in LA than it was in Colorado because they had a wider selection and it was lower price there. So don't get the idea that because you're in small town or big town, because you're in great demographics or mediocre demographics. Karis, you made a comment to me. You came out, I'll remind you if you don't remember, but you came out here a year ago and was looking at the Thornton School. Do you remember what you said about their neighborhood?
Yeah, very similar to ours, and they charge twice as much as we do, or $100 more a month for each of their programs. And what I was going to interject too is it's all about the value. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, and that's something we've learned from you guys. It's all about building that value. So we're not as far south as Springfield. I think Springfield's a couple hours south of us. We're closer to Chicago, and we're kind of right in between a very low income area and then a very wealthy area. I mean, it's pretty diverse. So we get families from either side. The low income families that come in, you build that value, they will walk in with $1,000 cash or $2,000 cash to get their kid involved because they want to, if you build that value. The people who pull up in a Rolls Royce and they have money to burn, they have different objections, but it's still objections. For them, it's we're overspent in our time. Our kids are in hockey, dance, gymnastics, blah, blah, blah. So you're right back at square one, building that value. Why is this program important? So yeah, you're right. It's not really about the price. It's about building value. And if they buy into that, they're going to make it work.
Yeah. Over the years, and again, having 6 locations gives you a different perspective on all of this. If I were to compare 2 locations, I had a location that was right by Cherry Hills Country Club in Littleton, Inglewood, Cherry Hills, Colorado. It's now Centennial, Colorado, and a location in Westminster, Colorado. Still have a location in Westminster, Colorado. The one near Cherry Hills Country Club only was a high-performing location for me when I was personally running it. And when I was personally running it, I could step into that school. I took it one time from 50 students up to about 400 students, and from in the low teens up to probably $1 million a year in about 12 months. But it was only a school performing that way when I was personally running it. I never had other staff able to run those kind of numbers in that location. On the other hand, my location in Arvada and in Westminster, Colorado, and in Lakewood, Colorado, were always my top grossing schools, no matter who was running them. The ones in those areas had a heavily Hispanic clientele. The Hispanic clientele were charitably could be defined as lower middle class in those areas. And it was the ones that were at the lower end of the income range in those areas that, as you said, Karis, were most interested in the kids market and their kids having a better life than they did. And those locations did very well with all of my staff running them. Greg, you started in that Lakewood location. That Lakewood location at one time was 2,400 square feet with close to 650 active. I don't recommend that, but it is the period of time when I first learned my lesson about raising prices. Is I kept raising prices thinking the active count would drop. Every time I raised the prices, the active count went up. So it was, I learned my lesson not to think like an economist, but to really understand how people were thinking about it. And anyway, so let's do this. Andre, if you were going to give people 3 or 4 ideas from your recent experience on things that they should do, I mean, we don't have time to go into the details, but things that they should do for back to school marketing right now, what's 2 or 3 quick ideas?
Definitely contact their schools and try to get into the meet and greet, the open houses. Those were phenomenal for us. I mean, by far, all year long, in terms of events, I feel that the back to school meet and greets were the best of all of our events thus far, because we had the parents, the kids, and most of our parents were looking for something to do for their kids. So that for me will be a big suggestion for everyone to do. And as Greg Macy said, I would market to all of your old leads that you've met either this year or last year, because again, back to school time, parents trying to find something for the kids to do. Then third, it would be to try to find out who the teachers, the PTA presidents are, or the principals are, in terms of making connections to get into schools through after school enrichment programs, and or with the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts as well.
Yeah. Well, good, Andre. Let's shift. Karis, same question to you. 4 or 5 things that you should be focusing on right now for back to school.
Definitely hit your cold leads. Previous students, give them a welcome or we miss you kind of call, come see what's new in our school. Do some sort of a back to school rally in your school, make it a buddy event where people are bringing their friends. Yeah, definitely getting into the school, getting out in the community. There are harvest fests going on all around. Just contact your local chamber, see what's going on in your community, take part.
Yeah, good. Greg, same question to you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the back to school, any of the meet and greets are really a strong lead source, and they're really easy and they're normally free. So, you just get in there. We've also been set up in the month of September in some elementary schools doing character talks, and these are just motivational, quick hour long. They'll do a session. We're doing a session on start strong, end strong. So we're just trying to tie into the community and tie into the schools and let them know that we're the experts in that. But that start strong, end strong is a good theme that the principals are taking up. So we've got our whole month of September pretty much booked for going into these schools and introducing ourselves. And especially for our new school in Longmont, we're just trying to plug into the schools here and get that moving, since they have no exposure to us. So anything that we can do to get our foot in the door to get the after school programs started in there is one of them. And
Master Moody, or I think Master Moody.
No, it's Bob sharing his screen.
Oh, is that it?
I'm showing the available spaces on your calendar for next week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the reminder is Derek and Hillary Sandoval and a bunch of other people have a bunch of questions. Eduardo, a little off topic, but I'm happy to answer those. Give Bob a call, 720-256-0208, or you can schedule a time, martialartswealth.com/free video. Happy to schedule a time to chat with everybody. But let me hit a couple of things. And Thomas, same question to you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave you out of the loop there. What would you suggest focusing on? Labor Day weekend is coming up this weekend. What's next? What are some things you should really focus on?
keep walking into the schools, the ones that you haven't gotten into, walk in, see them again, get the stuff to them, keep up the phone calls. You want to hit your hot list, or as Karis touched on, all of your former students, current students, friends of students, all of the prospects that have come in. This is the time to keep on them with a good, efficient drip system of contact and communication. You want your, we've got a mass mailer that went out before, is very effective. We've got new students off of it. We're getting ready to launch it again at the end of this month, all back to school, all good grade oriented. Phone calls or a lot of events, runs and all. You've got to hit all of these because all these school kids go to these events with their parents. So you want to be there and you want to get appointments from these events. Hit them all, as many as you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and go ahead, Master Ray.
I was going to say, I think that when we talk to people, sometimes they've never really worked their prospect list, or they call it a drip list, which Mr. Wright said. And what we really want to do is pound those lists at specific times of the year. I think the misconception is if somebody came in and said no, or we called them 3 times because we got their information and they didn't call us back, well, that must mean they don't want to participate. And that it doesn't mean that at all. It's just that at that time it wasn't the right time, or they there was some other reason why they didn't enroll at that time. But the people that have at least raised their hand a little bit and said, I might be interested in martial arts, they're a lot more likely to enroll later. They're a lot better use of your time and money to spend effort on than somebody who is just, walking down the street, or somebody that's that you do a direct mailer to that meets your demographics. They're a lot higher priority. And most people we see don't do anything with those lists, and those can be gold.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and the places where somebody's going to be more responsive, right, is most responsive is you're talking to them face to face. And if it's a warm lead, that might mean showing up at their door and knocking on their door and talking to them. In reality, we've rarely, if ever, done that. There's a lot of labor involved. But number 2 is calling them. The good thing about the current environment is there's a lot of communications tools. There's everything from email and Facebook and text message and Snapchat. The bad thing about it is it's hard to get people to answer the phone. Now, outbound telemarketing, calling a human being, talking to a human being, voice to voice, is still second most effective to talking to them face to face. The challenge is getting them on the phone, right? But still, you want to start at the top of the list, work your way to the bottom, start at the top, work your way to the bottom again. What we do know is, I wrote the first book on internet marketing for martial arts schools. It's been actually 15 years ago now. 15 years ago, I loved email. Now I barely use email. My autoresponder is a picture of me pulling out my hair. It says, I give up, try something else. But the average person in the United States, anyway, in North America, is getting somewhere on the range of 145 emails a day, and they're getting on the range of 3 to 4 pieces of mail in their mailbox a day. What we know is text messaging today is every bit as responsive as email was 10, 15 years ago. It has essentially 100% open rate. Response rate is very high. What we also know is direct mail works better now than it did, in what people think of the heyday of direct mail of 30 years ago. Why does it work better now? People get less mail. They all look at the mail. They still get, in some cases, bills and other important notices and one thing or another. So, but the most important criteria for getting direct mail to work is the list. It's the list. It's the getting them to read it, which is headline, offer, format, and then it's the offer, getting them to respond. So on the list, is it meeting with them face to face? It's calling them. It's direct mail. It's texting. Then you have email. You have Facebook. You have Instagram, Snapchat, and I can go on the list. But what we try to do is use all of those. So if I have Greg Macy's 2,200 leads, what can I do? I can load them into Google, and I can do a retargeting, marketing, display advertising in front of all those people on Google. That's a relatively new thing. I can load them all in. It's called a custom audience of your current customers in Facebook. I can load them all into Facebook, and now I can do targeting to those people in Facebook. I can do the same thing, by the way, with Bing. So I have Bing, which is AOL, Yahoo, Bing. I can do it in Google, which is the 800-pound gorilla of search anyway. And they have lots and lots and lots of different properties. It's not just Google. And then I can target them on Facebook. I can send email, and I can, more importantly, I can call them, I can send direct mail, and I can text message them. And I can also do automated voicemail, which replicates. I pick up the phone and call them and leave a message, but it's indistinguishable for them from that, right? So what I would like to do is to, you know, we've been at this about an hour, actually, for those who got here early, about an hour and 10 minutes. We're going to have to wrap pretty quickly, and I know we haven't hit as much in-depth marketing as a lot of people would like. I would tell you that there's a lot of specific questions, everything from staff payroll to program structure and how to do the upgrade. None of that stuff is really on topic right now. We're happy to answer any questions. Let me do something that's going to be at least perceived as being very self-serving. Thomas, let me ask you, and I'm going to go around the list here. Thomas, if somebody was one, I'll give you two questions. One is looking at the cacophony of the bozo explosion of voices out there and trying to make a decision about you know, where the wheat is cut from the chaff. What would you tell them about our team of support people and the team of people that we're working with here?
I'm getting bombarded with the bozo explosion. I think I'm on everybody's mail list, Facebook list and all. And I can tell you from the very beginning, I still remember my first conversation with Senior Master Moody. I remember my first conversation with you. Remember, I'm still trying to keep up with the load of reading material you keep suggesting to me. There is, from what I've seen, no comparison. Every single thing that I've talked about when we go to these face-to-faces and most, we've all been to these, every time we bring up a problem, something good or whatever, you, Senior Master Moody and Master Smith, have already dealt with these things. So this is, we're talking with highly successful school owners who have been there and really have done that and have moved on or improved it. And it's been like that since day one. 2.5 years now. Senior Master Moody is in here with me, and instead of just totally redoing everything like we did, we are now Are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Your computer screen.
Well, now we're finally fine tuning everything, but and I haven't seen that from any of the other conversations that I listen to, and I look at and read everything.
Is it fair to say, and anybody correct me if you disagree with this, a lot of the loudest shouts right now are people who have kind of a fitness industry mentality, which is marketing and sales without much morality or ethics. And what our focus is not only being good at marketing and being good at converting them into quality students, but keeping them long-term, keeping them for life if at all possible. Even more importantly, making sure that they truly achieve the benefits that we pitch them on, right? If we tell them you're going to get confidence, self-esteem, better grades in school, you're going to be able to defend yourself in all situations, you're going to get fitness. I mean, you know, in my mind, if they drop out in 90 days, they never got any of those things, right? So we're really focused on that kind of long term. I was going to go to Andre next, but we have an empty chair. So Karis, same question to you. All these voices out there, how's your experience and value been with what we're doing?
Hard to know where to begin. There's been so many good things. You know, December, we went to the live event, and Master Harrison and we just sat down, planned out 2016, and decided this is the year of do or die for us. We just decided we're going to stop taking pieces of your advice and just go all in. And this has already been the best year ever. We've added 100 students since February.
Wow.
And, yeah, and we, you know, our student value is increased. We're keeping our students longer. And what I really what I really appreciate is, you know, like you said, there's all these moving pieces in the process, all these different pieces that have to be in place. And sometimes it's hard when you're looking at the whole thing and you're thinking, why isn't this working? We're doing everything. But what I appreciate about this group and about you is that you help us pinpoint exactly where we are failing or where we need to improve, you know, the missing link, things that we probably wouldn't have known without you taking a look and really dissecting it all. And then you give us the answer and the solution for it. And so as we've been and fixing the weak links, it's been such a game changer for us. So yeah, I'm thrilled with our participation here. And I agree with Thomas Wright too, just rubbing shoulders with other school owners and operators. I've gotten some of my best ideas from just sitting across the table at dinner and sharing ideas with other people. So.
Yeah, I mean, our live events is really designed to be an interactive mastermind sharing experience. But I've always found some of the best ideas come not in the meeting room, but they come in the hallway, or they come at lunch, or they come, you know, in those downtimes. Greg Macy, same question to you. I mean, you kind of grew up with me, but you're an explorer, so you've explored everything in the industry, everything from software to other voices. How would you compare all that noise out there, and what your experience has been here?
Well, I mean, to kind of reiterate on what they've said as far as rubbing shoulders with everybody else, but also, you know, it's all about the action and actually implementation steps. And there's a lot of good ideas, but actually taking those ideas and putting them into a process or putting them into action and actually making them work. But then more importantly is making those adjustments and making, you know, when it's not going right. And if you don't have somebody kind of that is an expert looking over your shoulder saying, okay, you need to tweak this one little thing this way and move it this direction, you really do miss out on the big picture. And, you know, there's really not a lot of variables out there. You look at a martial arts school and we all run, you know, there's just a handful of variables. And there's a lot of new advice. There's a lot of things out there that if you try, you may have marginal success with. But, you know, the biggest thing that I've really been able to get out of being a part of the group is just taking 2 or 3 action steps home and implementing them, but implementing them in a very strong manner where you guys continue to follow up with us. You know, I know I had some intro process stuff that I wanted to dive back into because, you know, now we're in the process of training our staff and making sure that the enrollments are happening within the schools when I'm in this multi-school environment now. And, you know, I put out some videos and I said, you know, here's videos. And I've done, you know, thousands of enrollment conferences personally, but I had Master Moody look it over and he sent me a huge, you know, response back to exactly tweak this. And we did those little tiny tweaks and our percentages increased. And, you know, it doesn't take very many enrollments a month to increase, to see the value in what you're doing as part of this organization. And so that's really been the biggest benefit is those little adjustments and then, you know, that personalized advice that you get. But then also, you know, the group sharing, all the things that, you know, I come back with these ideas of, you know, 20 or 30 ideas. But then on top of that, you know, the very strong big points of we're going to implement these 3, and we're going to do it strong, and we're going to, you know, have some readjustments and make some progress on it. And so it's all about the results. You know, you can look at doing things over and over again, but if you're not increasing your results in a drastic fashion, then you're part of the wrong system. And I've seen every one of the school owners that are part of your mastermind group increase. And it's not like, they increase 5% or something. We're talking these, you know, double, triple their net. And really that's exciting to be around. It's not like, yeah, I tried that and I made $500 extra last month. I just doubled my gross. And that's really what we're about.
Yeah, and doubling your gross might be 10 times the net.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean we're in a fixed cost situation. And again, I want to apologize. There's a lot of very good questions that are off topic. And from a marketing standpoint, I mean, we just spent 3 solid days in the marketing boot camp. I guess 2 days in the marketing boot camp and 1 day at high level mastermind meeting here at my home. Talking about marketing, and we didn't get every every detail. So there's an awful lot. We haven't even touched upon online marketing. Somebody asked me about how often you should do the drip on email. Guys, if you're on my email list and you're getting the martial arts emails, go count how many of those you get a week. The rule is if you're not hitting them once or twice a day, they're not paying attention. The better question is what's the Parthenon of ways you need to contact them, and you need to be contacting them by text message, and you need to automate a voicemail, and you need to be emailing to them, and you need to be having a human being calling them, and you need to be an email, and they need to be seeing you on Facebook, and they need to be seeing you in Google and everywhere else. And so once you've got a lead, you want to follow up with them in all those different formats. And once you have an email, you can follow them in Google, Facebook, Bing. And once you have a phone number, obviously you can call them and text message. And once you have a mailing address, you can direct mail to them. So you need to be doing all those things. The thing I would say, and I want everybody's feedback on this briefly, and we had Andre back. I meant to get Andre, and now we've got a chair again. So you guys remind me when the chair is full again, and we'll get Andre. Master Smith sends his apologies. He's been on the meeting all the time by phone, muted, so he wasn't able to get on the webcam and wasn't able to get in here live with us. And I either wasn't able to figure it out or didn't take the time to figure out how to unmute him from the phone. So I'll apologize to my instructor, 10th degree Grandmaster Jeff Smith. Hopefully he won't take it out on me next time. I tell everybody he's the scariest AARP member I know. I think he inherited that title from Joe Louis when Joe Louis passed away. So anyway, and by the way, you guys training like he's got a world title fight when he turns 70. So you guys have seen that. But again, Derek has some questions, Richard has some questions. We're not going to be able to get to all of those. Structurally, what we do, and I think what I see a lot of people trying to do is piece it together. So there's all these Facebook discussion groups, including ours, and there's all this different stuff, and there's email, and people are getting information. But what happens is they end up with this mess. And a lot of what we do when we first start working with them, Master Moody probably could speak to this, is we kind of undo the jumbled mess of stuff that they put together and try to make it a coherent system. One of my favorite Bruce Lee quotes from years ago is all about simplicity. The approximate quote is, before I knew martial arts, a punch was just a punch, a kick was just a kick. After I studied martial arts, a punch was more than a punch and a kick was just more than a kick. And a round kick, hook kick, round kick, side kick, crescent kick. Once I'd mastered martial arts, a punch was just a punch, a kick was just a kick. And to a great extent, our ability to have an overview is about simplify. It's about how do you keep students for life, maximize what they're going to pay into the school in such a way they're thrilled to be giving it to you. How do you get enough new students in the door? How do you fix your dropout rate while getting enough new enrollments in? And then do it in such a way that the community loves you 20 years from now, not that you've churned and burned and created a lot of enemies. The structure of what we do is a combination of classroom environment, a classroom environment in this format, just like you see here where everybody's interactive, asking questions and contributing. We do that pretty much every week, combined with on a quarterly basis. Sometimes we go to West Point or we go to Disney and look behind the scenes. Other times we look behind the scenes at a Mile High Karate School, or we went to Elite MMA and some other really high performing schools. And sometimes it's something like the marketing boot camp where we're really focused on, like Kara said, Greg, you've added well over 100 students in the last 90 days. Karis, you've added 100 net new students in the year so far. That translates to, I'm guessing, 25,000 a month gross or more increase as well. So, I mean, even at the beginning, they're paying about $200 a month. So dramatic improvements, right? But we combine meeting like this with meeting on a quarterly basis with some one-on-one support when somebody has something that's a particular issue that they can't solve in a small classroom environment. And in addition to that, as Thomas mentioned, we have an unlimited amount of support materials to the point that if we don't properly support and direct, it can become overwhelming. But really, it's not about more stuff. It's about directing results, as Greg mentioned, and getting a real outcome. I don't see Andre's chair full yet, so we won't roll to Andre. Master Moody, anything to wrap up for the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we're trying to do is give everybody an overview today. I mean, everybody needs to be doing a lot of things. You mentioned the Parthenon. That's that old Greek building with lots of pillars that hold it up. And to do your marketing properly, you got to be doing a lot of things. A lot of people ask us, well, what's the one thing you do? How are we going to get a lot of leads? In fact, I think somebody asked, how are we generating leads? Well, we're doing quite a few things. And you need to have enough things happening. Number one, you need to make sure that those things are as effective as possible. And typically the stuff that we see isn't effective at all. The movie theaters, runs, the type of events, the school nights, typically those are 5% as effective as they could be. And we turn them into much more effective efforts, but then also have enough things going on so that if one of them doesn't work one month, that it works. And that's sort of the fundamental concept with marketing. We really need to talk to everybody one-on-one. And that'd be the next step if you really want to make a difference in your school, so that we can detail it for you and make sure we can take care of all those things for you personally, because everybody's situation is going to be unique for them.
I think it's fair to say that there is no magic pill, and I think everybody on here can attest to it's an education. I mean, it's a long-term education, and you continue to learn as you work with each other. So it's, anyways, hopefully everybody gives me a call and sets up a time with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I will say is almost everybody who contacts us initially, almost without exception, they think they have one problem only. I think they're a great instructor. Students love them. They have great retention. They're charging as much as they can charge in their area. But if they could just get more new students in the door, they'd be fine. And in almost all cases, they're not charging enough. They don't have a good program structure. Maybe they've listened to the Bozo explosion and they think the only offer is 30 days free or 6 weeks for $69. Maybe they are doing a why bother upgrade and they're doing $150 a month and $170 a month and $190 a month, which is dumb. But in almost all cases, I mean, our target is 2% or less monthly dropout. Greg, you've been running at your Fort Collins school. What have you been running dropout rate?
No lower than 98.
Okay, so in other words, 2% a month dropping out, 98% a month staying.
Yes, sir.
Right? So in order to maintain 300 active, that means you need 6 new enrollments a month, right? Now, 6 new enrollments a month would have been slow growth to get there. You've done a lot more than that. But to maintain 300, you only need 6 students a month, right? Pretty much everybody I talk to comes in with 7, 8, 9, 10% a month dropout rate, think they're a great instructor, all their students love them, their curriculum is perfect, all they need is more new students, right? And the reality, what I find is typically long-term, we will double the average value per student. Typically, we'll cut the dropout rate in half. And at the same time, create systems where you can get as many new students a month as you want, right? Anybody disagree that we're certainly capable of creating the drink from a fire hose at any time, any place? Everybody's had that experience, right? So the biggest problem we have at our live meetings with our members is not how do I get more traffic in, but it's, oh my God, how do I enroll the 15 intros? Greg, you texted me. How many intros did you have in one night? You sent me a text, was some ridiculous number. I don't even remember.
It was, I think our record was around 80. It was like 70 or 80 enrollments in one day.
In one day?
Yes, sir. We had a packed intro back to back that we did a big group intro that had about 30 in it in each one. So we did those two. So that was about 60. And then we did a couple smaller ones of like, 7 or 8.
Pisses me off. You broke my record. My record was 38 enrollments in one day.
Oh, sorry. No, that's just right. That's just intros.
Oh, intros. Okay. Okay. Have you broken my enrollment record in one day?
We haven't hit 38 yet, sir.
Okay, I'm safe. That's. I want you to beat it, by the way. Any teacher wants their students to excel beyond where they've ever been. But my personal record, belly to belly, face to face, was 38 enrollments in one day, and these were 12 months enrollments. Inflation adjusted, $500 down, and $2 something a month. That's been a few years now, but.
And that's I was going to say something about the retention that you mentioned. is a lot of people are saying, oh, they literally do say that they think that they have really good retention. But I think the real answer is if you don't know exactly what your retention is, like Greg does, just assume it's bad. And just be honest with yourself about that. Just assume it's bad. And if we can reduce it, if we can cut your retention, your loss rate in half, then it's going to make a huge difference in your growth and the number of members you need to keep to stay steady.
And, say something else against, to that retention. We, in the actual meetings itself, if you listen to the tapes or anything that we talk about, and in regards to retention, it's so it's hardly ever focused around how to instruct better on the floor, or and so you see there's a huge difference in the industry. You'll go to some of these other events and they're so focused around, teaching the most energetic class, which is certainly important. And that certainly is a big piece of the retention. But like Master Moody is saying, is that sometimes it's just about the focus. It's about knowing your numbers. It's all those other things. And just in listening and working with the team here, based around statistics, based around how do you look at the analytics better, how do you train your staff better, how do you do these other things better, you'll see a huge increase in your retention. And it really has nothing to do with teaching on the floor.
Well, yeah. And, one of my advantages, Greg Moody has his advantage, Jeff Smith has his advantage, but, with Jeff Smith and myself, all the top people in the industry, and I can't think of an exception, are all good friends of mine or have been good friends of mine. And I've been, over the years, always have been a numbers person, as is Jeff Smith, and we've been, privy to the behind the scenes numbers. And so, I know that very good friends of mine who are going around the industry teaching instructor training, they've got great drills and curriculum and stuff, but those aren't the people who had great student retention, right? They're not the ones that their dropout numbers were the lowest, and it wasn't the key indicator of what quality retention was all about, right? And the other thing I see is, there's a lot of people who have kind of gotten good at internet marketing, or they know how to do direct mail or email or something like that. But in most cases, they haven't put together the A to Z. And you can either double the number of new students you get, or cut the number that drop out by half. I got to tell you, the hardest thing to do, although we can do it fairly easily, but the hardest thing to do is this. Much better to keep them long term, because that's again how you improve referrals and referral systems. That's how you get a high percentage to upgrade. It's how you get a high percentage into the higher price points. Also, frankly, how you develop staff. If you're constantly scrambling for staff, it's probably because you don't have the leadership program in place properly and you're not developing those people properly. But anyway, hey, to Andre's chair and to Thomas Wright, Greg Macy, Karis Brody, thank you so much for your contributions today. Greg Moody, Bob Dunne, thank you guys tremendously for your contributions. Jeff Smith, listening in on audio, thank you, Master Smith. We'll fix your technical challenges perhaps someday. But anyway, for everybody who was on here, and we had quite a few people on here, thanks guys so much. I'll remind you, martialartswealth.com/free video and 720-256-0208. We'll be delighted to talk to you. Karis, any last thing to add to the conversation?
Hit it hard. Don't slow down. Don't get lazy.
Very good. If somebody was considering working with us, have you guys gotten a fairly decent return on investment over the years?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Anybody disagree that it's been 20 or 30 or 40 to 1? Thomas, you were shaking your head vigorously.
I don't disagree at all. No, it's I'm sorry. I've got Bob's phone number came up on my screen. I was trying to go back to the other.
He shared his screen, so thanks for that, Bob.
Does that block everybody out? I didn't know.
I thought it was supposed to be Bob's number really close.
There you go.
But yeah, you cannot lose if you do what they tell you to do, and it works. The hardest part is taking the first step, and then you just got to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. We monopolized a little bit more time than I expected, and as usual, got distracted a few on some questions that were a little off topic. But Karis, Greg, Thomas, I hope you will do 100 enrollments in September, and I know you have all the pieces in place. And Greg, that's 200 for you because you got to do 2 schools. Let's make sure that the number 2 school is on track for $1 million. Do you? How close are you going to be to $1 million this year for the first school?
We're tracking around 900 right now.
So a big renewal blitz at the end of the year, and you're at $1 million.
Yes, sir.
That'd be a nice benchmark to break here.
Yes, sir.
You know, my motivation, by the way, when I opened, was to make sure the Lakewood Mile High Karate School kicked the crap out of Jeff Smith running the Annandale School, and he was running then $700,000-800,000 a year, and I believe by year 2 I had beat him at that location. So make it your motivation to beat my all-time records and his all-time records. And so inflation adjusted, that means you got to be at a couple million next year.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to end the meeting and save the call, recording, all that stuff. But thanks so much for everybody.
Thanks, sir.